Hello and welcome to episode 9 of How to Contract in Kerbal Space Program version 0.24. My name is Jim, and today, let's see, we have a healthy balance of funds, a little bit of science to start working on our next tech node, and a bunch of contracts. So we have a science data from around Minmus, test, a rescue, test structural pylon, stack separator in flight, separator, but the big ones here are the Explore Dune, Explore Eve, Explore Ike, and some more tests. We are looking to explore Ike, so we'll go ahead, we don't have any active yet, and we'll go ahead and accept that one. The one thing to keep in mind, when you do these long-term projects like this, it'll take years to fly out and come back. If you have any other active missions, they'll probably expire. So you want to definitely clear your active contract tab before going on one of these big missions. Unless you want to do something like launch the mission and then while it's traveling come back and do a bunch of these. I mean, that's a possibility, and we may do that. I'll have to see how the construction of the ship for the Ike mission goes. So let me take a look at something here. Once we've accepted it, there's no deadline, so we can take as long as we need to get out there, and it's pretty good rewards as far as monetary, especially completing all four. 310,000, and I don't think the ship will be that expensive. So let's go into the VAB. And we're going to recycle our moon lander. Moon Mission 2. Because this is a pretty good little design for airless worlds. A nice wide stance, plenty of fuel for getting on and off. Ike is a fairly high gravity, but I think it's still less than Moon. Let's see, we want to add one more. So before we do this, Ike Mission 1. Alright, we're going to add the seismic accelerator. Put that right there so it's easily grabbable from the ladder. We don't need the barometer for this mission. Okay, so the lander itself is fine, but what we need to adjust is a couple of things here. One, we'll need these at some point. I'm going to take everything from here off down, because now we have fuel ducts. So what we can do is run fuel lines from the center tank out to these other three engines. Let's see if I can place this there. There we go. So we have, whoops, I need symmetry on. There. So now this fuel tank is going to be used. But what we want to do is when we fly there, we need a mothership to take us there and back. So we're going to place a docking port Oh, padded for, there it is. A docking port at the bottom. And then we'll need another docking port there. Now the question is, what will it take on our mothership to get us there? We need about 1,000 delta V to get from Kerbal low orbit to Duna, and then to slow us down there, probably another, I want to go ahead and say another 1,000. We can aero brake, so we may do that, but I want enough fuel to do it even without aero braking. So a couple thousand there, and then we need to get back, just a couple thousand more. So we need a pretty hefty amount of delta V to get back and forth. And we have our new nuclear engines, which are very efficient, an ISP of 800 in vacuum. So those are going to be very good for us. So the question is, what kind of stage do we need here? And what I want is so this can come home. So this can land back at Kerbal. So that can be where we store all of our science. We only have this we have this probe as well. Because I want independent control of the next ship down. So let's take a look at what we need. That's too small. So for docking we need some RCS. Let's see, there's 40 in those. We'll get 3 of these. And then little thruster blocks. We'll put let's do this a little bit differently. Let's put these on the inside. And these on the outside. Let's get our center of mass. Yeah, that'll be close enough. That should do for docking. We don't need a whole lot of RCS capabilities, just enough to maneuver as we get close to docking. We'll be going in backwards to dock. Alright, so our ship down here. Okay, let's put a reaction wheel here. And then our little probe. And then we need let's see, we need, just trying to think of how I want to go about doing this. I think what I'm going to do we also want to bring these guys along, so let's reattach this for a second. Get rid of that engine. So there's that, except for this now. So we know this can lift this into orbit with a lot of fuel here and here. We use this as our first part of the boost to Duna. But we need some nice long-term burns out of this. So what I'm thinking is pull that off, pull this engine off. Let's put the nuke in its place. Atomic rocket motor, I should say. And then to give us the kind of longevity we need, I want to do these. Let's do 4 times. And then 4 more of these tanks. And then these engines are quite heavy. Mass 2.25 tons, while this tank itself is 4.5. So this weighs half as much as these tanks. So I think I'm willing to go ahead and just use the one. It'll take a much longer burn, but we'll save a lot of fuel because the less weight we're carrying, the more efficient this fuel will be. Also, what I want to do is take that off. I'm going to go to 2 times symmetry. And do this twice. Alt click there. Whoops, I got the wrong bit. Alt click on the decoupler, because I want to kind of semi-asparagus these guys. There's no engines, but I still want to feed the fuel to the middle so I can drop a couple of these and lose some weight. So we're going to feed from here to there, and then from this one to the middle. So that will give us, like a way to drop some weight as we're traveling. So I think this unit will now get us from Kerbal to Duna and back again with this load here. So yeah, we'll chance that this is enough delta V to do the job. Now we need to get this into orbit. So we need our decoupler here. And then this. Actually, let's go ahead and add another tank. There. And this here. Alright, now I already know this is kind of weak with the weight we had before. But now we can asparagus. So what we want to do is pull this off. 2 times symmetry. Put it back on. Copy it. Up a little low. There we go. Alright, so now what we can do is, again, this is called asparagus staging, where you run a fuel line from one set of tanks and engines to another, and then in. So what happens is these tanks will empty out first. When they're empty, we can let this stage go, so this side and this side. But what happens is when these are empty, this and this are still full, and then it'll empty this one out, and then when this one drops, this will still be completely full. And so it's a very good way of getting extra delta V with the same, essentially the same construction as before. But well, before we just dropped all four of these on the outside and then lit this new stage in the middle. What this allows us to do is actually burn this one from the beginning. So we can move this engine into the launch stack. And then what happens we need to do is we need to, okay, our boosters separate first, and that's all these guys. What's this one? Yeah, this is definitely in the wrong. I think this goes up here. Yeah, that's the nuclear engine, so this decoupler will activate that engine. And then later on we activate our 3 engines because we just decouple that to get that going. Alright, so now we need to, the boosters go away. Now we need to make sure that this one goes away first. That's this one, and I believe this one, yes. So that's the first stage after the boosters. Now there's another stage that gets rid of these two, and that is that. And then once those are gone, it burns the middle here. We have this stage next. So 3 goes below 4. And then as the nuclear engine burns and these tanks empty out, we'll have to keep an eye on that manually. So we want to drop these 2. And then when these burn out here, we want to drop those 2. And then we'll be on the center tank. And that will be all for that. Okay, now we want to stabilize this guy. Okay, the struts already are going up to these tanks, so that's nice. More struts though. We need to kind of... let's just add some here. And some here. Even though there's not a lot of stress on these, they're just, since the struts are attached at the bottom of them here, it'll just help with stability. Let's go ahead and go across as well. This bottom stage is strutted up pretty well, and now we want to support, well, one thing we want to do is we want to support where this probe is, because that's going to be a weak point. And we want, let's connect it first, pull it off. Want 4 times symmetry here. Oops. From there. It's not doing what I want. Let's try it from the other way. Let's do it from here. There we go. And let's do 4 more. this angle, because that's a weak point. There'll be a lot of wobbling, and then finally we want to support this docking clamp because it'll wobble around quite a bit if it's not supported. So we'll go from back out just a bit. We'll go from this tank. Once we're in space, it doesn't matter as much, so I'm not worried there, to this strut. Well, then we'll do another one on this side to here. And then finally from here. Yeah, it's kind of, because this is trilateral and this is 4x symmetry, it's kind of weird, but this might induce some rotation. Let's go up to, yeah, let's go across. I have to do these singly because these don't match up to anything. And once these tanks release, we'll be in space, and like I said, the stability won't be quite a big of an issue. And finally one here. Alright, we're up to 140,000 on cost on this, which isn't too bad. Let's back out, let's take a look at things here. I think we're okay. One thing I want to do now that I have the bigger engines, let's use the mainsails on these stages. Because power thrust to weight ratio is definitely going to be an issue for us. Hope we can do 2x symmetry there. And so this will alleviate that issue. Alright, okay, here's my stage. Okay, so I have 4 boosters, 2, 3, 4, 5 engines. This gets rid of the boosters. Let's get rid of the first liquid stage, second liquid stage, nuclear engine, drop extra tanks there, drop more tanks, the lander engine, and when it gets back, it disconnects the capsule and the parachute. So that is, I think, a workable interplanetary ship. This is one of the kind of the challenges at this stage of the game, is making something that can lift enough to get into the next, and get out of Kerbin's influence and into another planetary orbit safely. I think this will do the job. If not, we'll have to send another ship to refuel, because if this fails at getting around Duna, I'll have to use some of this fuel down here, and I'll have to send another ship to refuel the lander. So that's the potential rescue mission, but I should get there safely with this structure here. So now the question is saving it, getting our crew, not Jebediah, let's go with Barkat, and let's launch. Okay, SAS on. Get our stats up here. We have one active mission. Yes, we do have it active before we're leaving. Okay, so I need... Oh, I know what I need. I need solar panels on this part. So when they separate, I can still have control over that part of the ship. There's always something you forget. Alright, let's revert flight to vehicle assembly. And there's also maybe RCS. Let's go with these. Do 2 times symmetry. We'll go with 4. I'm up to 151,000, so 152,000. Those aren't too expensive. Yeah, so now this unit will have the cells, but also needs batteries. So we'll put a quad of 100 unit batteries on it. Let's go up to 4. Down here. Nope, book the whole thing. Didn't want to do that. Just wanted to select the solar panel, take it off, do 4 times symmetry. There we go. So I have batteries, I have solar panels, I have a reaction wheel to help me spin this thing around. I don't have RCS in this, but this is the ship that will be docking, so this is the one I need RCS on. And then... Yep, that'll do it. Let's save again. And get our preferred crew member back on board. And this time, launch. Okay, SAS on. I'm going to do throttles a third again. We have more weight, but we have much more powerful engines here, so it should balance out, and we'll adjust as we fly, but that's my first guess. Alright, get our supplies up. 3, 2, 1, lift off. Yep, that has a nice perk, so I'm just going to go ahead and lower that engine thrust even more. We'll go ahead and watch this one as it stages out, because this is an experimental craft at this point. I'm pretty sure we have enough oomph to get into orbit. And here you can see the asparagus stage working. These 2 tanks are emptying faster than the rest, but at the same, these show they're out, but they're actually still full. This is the stack that's emptying, but this stack is still full. What's showing is the total of all the tanks available to it, and so the fact that these are empty, it shows a space there. But as you'll see, when we stage these will fill up again. Alright, let's throttle up, stage off the solid boosters. And we're still going way too fast, so let's go ahead and throttle that back. So we'll have a nice long burn with these engines. We're just about ready to stage this stage. We're still going a little bit fast, so once we drop it... Okay, we're kind of evening it out, but at this height, this velocity is nice. Alright, lean it over just a bit. Should have waited today so you guys could see this a little better. Can turn on the lights, illuminate the ship. Got plenty of power generation from these engines, so that's not an issue. Alright, let's lean it over the rest of the way to the 45-degree mark right there. check our flight here in orbit. 37,000, very nice. We're about to lose this stage, and then this, at that point, this stage is pretty weak with just this one skipper engine. So let's go ahead and get as much velocity with these engines as we can. And we're already reaching orbital height, so let's stop it at a little over 80,000. So we can use, yep, these are just about out. So we'll use this, the rest of this, to get into orbit, and we might be able to push To Ike with this a little bit as well. Looks like I have enough charge to go ahead and leave those lights on. Start leaning over. Only have 2 reaction wheels turning, the one in the capsule and the one I put on the second stage to get this thing over. Not quite in space, almost there though. Alright, 70,000 and the music. "55 seconds. I'll go ahead and start burning now. Get rid of this stage and then get this weaker engine going. This has to push us another 1100 meters per second. Okay, that altitude is holding pretty steady. I'm just a little below the horizon. Alright, it's catching up to us, and we're still over 700 meters per second away from circularizing, so let's point up a bit. See if we can pull it back to us. Plenty of fuel, the question is power. Okay, we've at least stopped it from getting away from us. It's coming back, so we can start leaning back towards the horizon. As you can see, I'm right on that knife edge of pushing it and pulling it away from me. "1900 meters per second. Alright, we're about to orbit. And there's the periaps. And here's the flip. 75 and 82. That is good enough. We're not going to be in orbit very long. Alright, so how much fuel do we have left in that tank? We have about a third of a tank, so we can get, let's see, we had about 1200 to get. So there's probably 700 or 800. So we should get most of our boost from this tank, which is very nice. Okay, the question of how to get to Duna. Here is Duna. Let's set it as our target. And what we need to do is there's a site. So actually, let me get the address here. I'll put it down in the description as well. Kerbal Space Program Interplanetary transfer angle is the search term. And the address is ksp.olex.biz, and that'll be in the description. And what it does is it gives you the angles for where the different planets need to be. And it says for Kerbal to Duna, what we need is if Kerbal is at 3 o'clock, we need Duna to be a 45-degree angle, so about 130. So that's the easy way of finding out what it is. Now I'm going to show you guys another way to work a couple of things out. The goal of a planetary transfer is to extend our orbit so that it just touches at the opposite side of where the planet is now. And that will take the least amount of fuel to make the orbit reach the orbit of the next planet. And then what we have to do is time it so that the planet travels exactly that far in the time it takes us to travel this far, so that we meet, have an encounter, and everything is good. And so there's two little angles that this website tells you. One is the angle you need to burn to leave Kerbal. That's the most efficient. And that's easy to figure out right from the game. I'll show you right now. So we put a maneuver node here. We burn out to approximately 1,000 meters per second. Now zoom out. And here's the orbit I was talking about. See, it's not quite, hasn't quite reached Duna. There it is now. Okay, and there's the closest approach if we were to burn right now, which is quite a ways away. But we can make this as efficient as possible by looking closer and then making sure that this trajectory is along Kerbal's orbit. So by doing that, we just zoom in a bit, make sure we grab the actual marker and not any of the handles. And so just pull it back a little bit. And unfortunately we're getting a moon encounter. So let's just get rid of that. Well, let me go ahead and pull it out just to show that at least now it's a little more parallel. And the result of that is that we get, well, it doesn't even show it now with the moon in the way. So what I need to do is go around a couple times and get the moon out of the way. So I will speed this all up and be back with you in just a moment. Alright, hopefully the moon's out of our way now. But anyway, let's reset our maneuver. Pull it out to a little over, well, let's say 1100. Take a look at our, oh, it's hitting the moon again. Yeah, we're going so fast we get right within the moon's sphere of influence. Alright, one more time around, or two more times around. I'm just going to quick cut this so that you don't have to wait through it. Alright, I'm back, and now we should be safely out of the moon's influence. It's along our line, but by the time we get out there it should be over here. So one more time, click there, add a maneuver, burn this out to about 1100. Okay, now we can see our orbit. Yeah, see, we're well extended beyond. But we need to line, so we can pull this back a little bit. Let's go back down to 1100. Take a look at the wide view. There we go, our apoapsis is right there. And as you can see, our line is a little closer now. We still need to turn it back just a wee bit. Now, a little bit more. And now our line is pretty parallel to Kerbin's trajectory. And so we get a little more efficiency there. Okay, now the second thing, to figure out the angle that Duna needs to be, like I said, it has to be here when we get there. And that is 306 days away. And from this little closest approach marker, we know that Duna travels this far in 306 days. So what we can do is, if we imagine this here, then we know that we have to move Duna back approximately this far from its present location. So let's look at it in terms of hours. So right now this is at 9 o'clock and this is at 7 o'clock. So we have to move Duna back approximately 2 hours. Right now it's at 11, so essentially 1 o'clock, which is close, within, the website says 45 degrees, which would be 1:30. So we can kind of get, the right answer by eyeballing it like this. So 306 days is 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. Yeah, so 1 o'clock. So by my estimation, I'm saying 1 o'clock. So right about there. So what we have to do is fast forward enough time to get Kerbin to here when Duna is here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the Space Center. We go to the Tracking Center and we look at, see, double click Sun to get Sun in the center. And now we can do is we can use these markers. We can click on them directly, or we can use the period or comma keys to slow down our, but we're going to do full acceleration 100,000 times, and we're going to put Duna at about 1:30, and then when Kerbin gets here, just keep rotating it. That's when we know we're ready to burn. So I'm just grabbing the solar system and spinning it back to keep Duna approximately where we want it. And then when Kerbin catches up, slow down our warp. So that's the 45 degrees. And now we can go back to our ship, Ike Mission 1, and set up this maneuver node for the final time. Okay, again it's on the night side, because what we're doing, we're burning to, and that's another thing I want to kind of talk about, we're burning to add energy to our orbit in relationship to the sun, so that we boost ourselves out to Duna. So we're burning on the night side to add velocity to Kerbin's velocity, which is about 9,000 meters per second. So if we focus on Kerbin, it doesn't show it here. Kerbal, yeah, velocity 9,284 meters per second. That's going around the sun. Duna is going 7,500. So it's going slower, but its orbits are farther out, actually have more energy to them than orbits that are closer, even though the velocity is smaller. You'd think it's one of those counterintuitive things about orbital mechanics. Alright, so we can make this a little more efficient by pulling this back. Yeah, so we're projected a little bit beyond, so we can go just a bit more. And get that parallel, nicely parallel, so we're good there. And we have a pretty close approach there, but we're extending out beyond it, so now we can slow it down a little bit more. And you can see the markers approaching the apoapse. And somewhere in there, we should have had an encounter. Okay, so that's us, and that's Duna, so we're behind. So one way of kind of fixing that is to make this a less efficient burn. Let's see, so if we move things back a little bit more, let's see what happens. It's all experimental. So now we've made our burn a little less efficient, so we need to add a little bit more delta V. And so yeah, that's pushing it away. So now let's do the opposite. Let's take this and push it more this way. So we kind of go off to the left. And that kind of twists our apoapse down. Cut a little bit of energy. And then again, it never quite gets an encounter. But it's pretty close. So instead of spending another 5 minutes here trying to get this encounter, this is close enough where we're going to go ahead and burn, and then we'll adjust to get an encounter mid-flight. And I'll show you guys how to do that when we get there. Anyway, so let's go ahead, and we're coming up on our burn. It does not know how long it's going to be. Typically these burns are in the several minute range. So I'm going to start burning, but I have this fairly big engine with a good amount of fuel. So I'm going to assume burning 2 minutes before will do just fine. So let's move over to the blue marker. Now just slow it down. Don't have a lot of torque on this ship with this big engine hanging off the back. And so I'm going to start burning at 2 minutes too. Another way to kind of get an estimate, already passing it up again, should just give a quick burst. Yeah, 2 minutes 48 seconds. So we can actually get a little closer. No, 2 minutes early will do. Let me burn. Because once we lose this, we're going to be on the nuclear stage, and that's going to be a lot weaker. So I'm going to compromise and do 145. Let's just speed up to that. Alright, let's start our burn. So this stage should, like I said, get most of this burn out of the way. I want to take a look at our stats. We are now, backspace to focus on our ship. 47 tons. That's not too bad. We'll see what we do when we drop this stage. It's very easy to build super huge ships, hoping that that gets you the delta V you need. But I like trying to keep things to these smaller tanks as much as possible, just because it makes you a little more efficient in how you build, and with the cost now being a factor, I'm not sure. It's showing 0 again. I did this at some other point. Okay, we're overheating a little bit, so nuclear engines, I'm gonna pull it back a little bit. Yeah, see, it's an extra 3 minutes now just for this little bit. But we're mostly there, and we've already got an escape. Now it's just a matter of extending our orbit out to Duna. Oh, actually, we don't have our escape yet. It's still within Moon's orbit. Yeah, we have the overheating under control. Some debris from an earlier mission. I'm not going to worry about chasing down the blue marker, because once again, I'm going to, when this burn gets out there, I'm going to cut the maneuver node and watch the actual orbit and see how close we get. And once we get as close as possible and it goes the other way, that's when I'll cut the engines. Okay, we've used very little fuel. We had about 300 delta V, so we've used 150 delta V, and we've used very, very little fuel. So this should be this should be enough to get us to Ike and home again. Alright, let's take a look at our... And there's our actual new orbit around the sun. Alright, we're still burning. Leaving Kerbal behind. Okay, we're getting close enough. I'm going to go ahead and just eliminate the maneuver node. And as soon as we get those markers, I'll kind of slow down the burn. Okay, there we go. So 588. So it's going back up. So this is our minimum right now. So that's fine. So let's get out of Kerbal's sphere of influence. Let's get a nice view as we zoom away. And there's Moon there in the background. don't see Minmus. Okay, I think that little blink was us escaping the sphere of influence. Let's see if I was correct. Yes, we are now out of Kerbin's sphere of influence. Yeah, the game kind of blinks at certain boundaries, so... Alright, so the question is adjusting this to get an encounter. We are behind it. Target position, yeah, so we're behind it, so we need to go faster. We're in a lower orbit, so we're already going faster than it. Overall, although at this point in the orbit we're actually going slower, because anytime you have an orbit that goes underneath another orbit, when the orbits match, the lower one will be going slower. So it's a matter of how much energy we have. We have less energy because we can't maintain an orbit out here. So we're slower, we go down, we speed up. But this is a lower energy orbit. So we're actually going slower at this point, so it's kind of getting away from us. That's why this is our closest approach instead of here. We need to kind of fiddle with that. So one way of doing that is getting over here. And we can do that descending though, because that way we can also adjust that. And let's boost our velocity. And let's see if we get an encounter somewhere along the line, farther along. Yeah, there it is. So there we have an encounter. Periapsis of 35 million meters, and here's our little trick. Let's do tab. And let's find Duna. And now we can see where we're coming in. Yeah, see we're coming in around to get a counterclockwise orbit, so that's perfect. So if we zoom out, let's click that. Oops. I want to click this, just the marker, to keep it open. There we go. And now I can go to our marker, open it up, pull this just a little bit more, and you can see the periaps falling. The question is 550 meters per second. We're adding velocity, but that's kind of okay because it means it'll take less delta V to establish our orbit. And I'm going to see what using these do. If I pull this one, that increases. Oh, now it's increasing again. Now it's increasing. There we go. Oh, now it's increasing again. Let's take a look at what we're actually doing. No, that's why, because we're way south of it, so we need to actually also go north. And now we're too far north. And now we're on the wrong side of the planet. And we have an Ike. Oh, we have an Ike encounter. That's why the Duna periaps went away. So we can burn a little bit that way. There we go. That's a nice periap. So that's our maneuver. So let's go ahead and go there and do it. Yeah, I'll see you guys when we get to this maneuver marker. I'm going to do a speed up. Be right back. Okay, I am back and we are within 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and get our position. Let's get our focus back on the ship. Find our position we need to be in. Definitely mostly prograde with a little bit of northward adjustment and a little bit of... Okay, that's pretty close right there. Okay, and this far out, timing really doesn't matter within a few minutes, but we'll go ahead and get this within a minute. There we go, let's start burning. It's actually a 5-minute burn. Okay, so I'm going to speed things up and I'll see you guys when this burn is nearly done. Alright, we are back and we have nearly completed the build. I was not worried about following the blue marker, and as you could see, I was playing around with the camera angles just to see what I could get. Let's take a look at our result. Let's get rid of the maneuver node. Okay, we have an encounter. Doom periaps of 9 million, so we're actually pretty close to what we want. Let's take a look at the planet itself and see if this is something. Yes, that is very good. Not actually too good. Okay, so here's what we can do. This is the way to adjust the last bit of orbit. So see, we're going far below Duna, so we need to go north to adjust up. So let's go ahead and rotate that way. Nope, wrong way. The other way. There we go. Now as we burn, this will come up to match the equator of Duna. And you can see the periaps getting smaller. It's because we're lessening the angle between it and Duna. And that's pretty darn close. If you really want to tell, you can tell as soon as it starts going up again. That's when you're doing the opposite. Okay, the next thing is to bring it in closer. So we want to burn, this is our path, so we want to burn to the left. What that is in orbit around the sun, that's the middle of the brown area on the nav ball. And being able to do this is why I do not worry about what the encounter is when I'm making it, far away. Because I can move in and do all these kinds of adjustments and get exactly the type of orbit I want. Alright, so now we burn here, and you can see the number is getting smaller, and it's moving in towards the left. We're a little off, so we're getting south again. So let's, if we do that and get to the north, then we'll bring it back up. Wow, that changed it a lot. You don't have to try to do this on the fly. If it moves to the south or north, you can fix it again. This is kind of an iteration process. So 4 million, 3 million, which is about the orbit of Ike. And let's bring it down to 500,000. Let's stop at less 800,000, but we're south again. So let's go back to the north, because we're going south and whipping up to the north. And we want to get equatorial so that we can transfer out to Ike fairly easily. And we have an Ike encounter on our way in, which may not be a bad thing. We can kind of let's try to go straight for an Ike in an interception. If we fail, we can just go to Duna instead, although it might kick us right into Duna's path. So yeah, we'll try that. But let me think. I'm going to cut out a second. I'm going to check how much footage we have. We may have to cut this into 2 parts, so I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and yeah, we're a little over an hour of footage, so this will be it for episode 9 of How to Contract in Kerbal Space Program, version 0.24. Next time we will actually get into orbit around Ike, do our missions, collect that science, and go home. So we'll see the reverse of this process, and I'll talk more about interplanetary transfers so you guys get a more detailed look at how to manipulate yourselves to get wherever you want in the solar system. Anyway, that will do it. My name is Jim. I want to thank you guys so very much for joining me. Have a great day.